Season's greetings, everybody, and welcome to the 10th day of our 12 Days of Christmas special. My name is Jordan, also known as JMonster, and I want to thank you all for joining me thus far. Today I've got something pretty cool to show you, but before I reveal what that is, I want to remind everybody that in 4 days, I'll be giving away a copy of Medieval 2 plus the Kingdoms expansion to round off our Christmas special. So if you don't already have the game and you want to join in on the fun, like the new Reforged patch, for example, you can find my email in the description of this video. What I need you to do is send me your Steam name. I will add you on Steam, confirm that you don't already have Medieval 2 plus Kingdoms, and I will choose one person at random to whom I will give the gift of one of the greatest Total War titles in any case ever released. That being said, let's take a look at today's Christmas present. Today, we take a trip back in time to feudal Japan for not one, but 2 winter battles in the hills and dales of the land of the rising sun. There's a couple rules to these battles to keep in mind. First is that there is only traditional units allowed in your army, so there's no Fall of the Samurai gunpowder units, for example, that are permitted on either side. Second is that nobody is allowed to bring any artillery of any kind, Fall of the Samurai or otherwise. And finally, both games are going to be done on a 14K budget, so they're quite expansive. We've got some pretty big elite armies here. And that's it. So without any further ado, let's dive into the replay. I hope you guys enjoy. The first game I have for you today is a 2v2 on the frozen Lake of Caldera. I'm going to be playing as the Chosokabe. I've brought 4 units of Yari Camp. I've got 2 of them here. 2 of them hidden over here in the woods. The rest of my army is very professional. I've got a ton of Yari Samurai. I've cheaped out a little bit on my bow units. I've only brought about 4 or so units of the Chosokabe bow Ashigaru, but being the Chosokabe, I think they get a little bit extra range, if not a little bit more damage, so it kind of evens out. In any case, the Ashigaru are very cost effective. They just have a little bit less range than the rest of the skirmish roster. I was going to say the Japanese skirmish roster, but then they're all Japanese factions. In any case, got some Naginata Samurai here in my second line, a nice little balanced force. And finally, I have my Katana Samurai the farthest back. These are the killing power of my infantry, so I wanted to keep them as far away from the bow units as possible. And of course, I've got my little general here. This is like the legendary general, Chosokabe Motochika. I have no idea if that's the correct pronunciation. It just sounds cool. And over here I have the army of my ally. This is Man of Wan Wei playing as the Takeda, so naturally he's got a huge number of cavalry. A couple units of Great Guard here hidden in the woods. Our plan was to basically use our hidden units to the greatest effect possible, so we really want to draw our enemies in, which you can see I'm already in the process of doing. Actually, I've moved forward with my Yari Cavalry, kind of scouting out the woods, making sure he doesn't have anything here, but the more that he moves in with some of his more powerful bow units, like these Bow Warrior Monks, for example, the more I'm going to try and draw back and pull him into an ambush. But in any case, the rest of Man of Wan Wei's army's got some Katana Samurai, large number of Yari Ashigaru, a huge number, in fact, and he's balanced that out with a number of Bow Samurai. I think he's got about 3 or 4 units of Bow Samurai. He's got a huge number of cavalry as well, as I mentioned earlier, some Takeda Yari Cav, which are a little bit better. Takeda Shingen, this being his general in the center here, and yet more Yari Cavs. A lot of very powerful anti-cav force, and some serious killing power in the form of his Great Guard. Let's take a look at what my enemies have brought to the battle today. This is the Oda forces being commanded by Recrius. He has another very balanced army. I think most of us went for balanced arms for the most part. A couple units here of the Yari Cav, some Oda Bow Ashigaru. The Oda Ashigaru tend to be a little bit better, though I'm not exactly sure what stat bonuses they get, but I think they're just all around a better unit because they rely on them quite heavily. So he's got a ton of Yari Ashigaru in the front lines. Yet more Yari Ashigaru on his on the back lines, and he's got some Oda Matchlock Ashigaru. So it's pretty much a militia army for the most part, but he does have a lot of numbers. And I found that in Shogun, numbers are pretty damned important. Even high numbers of low-tier units can overwhelm the high-tier samurai. Moving on to the 4th and final army, this is the forces of Mieszko, who is commanding the Date. I think are particularly known for their Nodachi samurai, so they got a lot of really nice shock troops, certainly a faction bonus that makes those troops a little bit better. He's brought some Yari Ashigaru, a lot of Naginata samurai, Naginata warrior monks over here, so a lot of very elite warrior monks. Over here we have some bow warrior monks who have an extreme range but very low unit count, so they can be overwhelmed if you allow your skirmishers to get into range with them by just sheer numbers of fire. In the back here we got some Date Nodachi Samurai, of course, because that's what this faction is all about. And then finally, he's got some Great Guard of his own, so he's got some pretty serious elite troops that I'm gonna have to be aware of and try to surround and beat down, because my force is mid-tier at best, but he's definitely got some serious elite forces. Over here, he's got some Yari Ashigaru as well. I think that just about does it for his army. Oh no, of course he's got some fire rockets, which I don't think he was supposed to have, because this is supposed to be a non-artillery battle, and I think these guys count as artillery. But in any case, let's go ahead and let's bring it up to normal speed. There's a lot of just kind of feeling out what my enemy has in the area. Now, I noticed that he has some cavalry over here. He's got some, actually, no, that's not his cavalry, but he does have some cavalry over here that I noticed, and he's starting to bring a little bit more of it forward. You can see some of the Great Guard, a lot of Great Guard coming forward. So what I'm going to do is move up the rest of my Yari Samurai and my Naginata Samurai to try and support my Chosokabe Bo Ashigaru, who I'm going to have stand their ground for the time being. If I can at all, I want to draw these his general and the rest of his cavalry into my Chosokabe Bo Ashigaru, so that I can, one, get some decent kills as they move forward, and two, yeah, try and draw him into a little bit of a trap where I can spring on him with my hidden Yari Cav. Over on this end, I'm actually starting to bring some of my my samurai through the woods. I want to try and pick a fight out here with these Yari Ashigaru and try and draw some of his other units out of the woods in case that, in the event that he has any. If I can draw that cavalry out into this area, then I don't really have to sacrifice my Bo Ashigaru to try and draw him into an ambush. So if I can get him pinned with my Yari Cav, for example, and then bring in my Naginata Samurai, then I'm going to have a pretty good time at wiping those Great Guard off the map. Now, what I didn't realize that he had some Naginata Samurai of his own. This is indeed what I was afraid of. He's actually brought up a lot of infantry here, including some of his Nodachi Samurai. So I'm going to be in a little bit of trouble here. My Naginata Samurai do definitely cancel his out, but the Nodachi Samurai are a big problem. They've got a little bit less melee defense once they get stuck in, but they've got a serious charge bonus, which thankfully we managed to deny to them by getting our Naginata Samurai stuck in. So I'm going to be coming in with some Katana Samurai as well, try and deal with some of these samurai units. The Katana Samurai, once the Nodachi Samurai are stuck in, I would say that they definitely have the advantage. That's something that I want to do right now. Now, a little bit of a micro mistake over here. I was trying to use my Chosokabe Bo Ashigaru to target the cavalry here in the back, or possibly these Yari Ashigaru as well, and try and give my cavalry a little bit of a break. Because my cav, right now, I could be doing something pretty important with it, but I am a little bit zoned out by that unit of Yari Ashigaru. Now, over here, I didn't actually realize that this unit was his general, otherwise I might have been a little bit more aggressive with my cav. Even if I lose a couple units of cavalry, if I take out his general, that is really huge in Shogun 2. Let's take a look at what's going on over on the other end right now. You can see that the Takeda have launched a bit of a probing assault forward, and they're getting some shut down by the Oda Yari Ashigaru, and they're going to be forced to flee back across the field, taking some pretty heavy losses from the Bo Ashigaru as they do so. So that unit of Takeda is, well, we might not even see them reform. They're down to less than half strength, and that happened pretty quickly into the battle. So the Takeda are now moving in to try and pick a skirmish fight. Now, this would be a good time to move in with those Bo Samurai and with those... Actually, it just has Bo Samurai here, not the Bo Ashigaru, because the Bo forces of the Oda are actually focused on shooting that Yari Ashigaru unit, and now the rest of them are actually moving forward. So once the Samurai are set up, they're definitely going to have the advantage here in terms of the skirmish edge. But if the Oda player moves forward and supports his archers with some infantry, and uses those infantry to disrupt the Takeda skirmish line, the Takeda might find themselves in a little bit of trouble, and they'll be forced to retreat, and then the Bo Ashigaru will have the ability to just cut them down as they go. But for the most part, that's all the action is pretty well concentrated over in here. So big fight in the forest. Let's go ahead and crank that up to full speed. We got some more Nodachi Samurai moving in on the center line here. I've actually got some of my cavalry. This is the Yari Ashigaru cavalry, or the Yari cavalry rather, that I had hidden in the woods. Oh, some of those fire rockets just tearing my units asunder. And with that, I'm going to be forced to move forward. So I got my Yari Samurai moving in against Naginata Warrior Monks. Unfortunately, I'm not going to get the charge bonus off that I wanted to get there, and my Yari Samurai are going to be in a lot of trouble. So I'm going to back them up with some more Naginata Samurai, try and make sure that line is as stable as possible. Over on this end, I've actually got my Yari Samurai in with the Yari Ashigaru, and they are being quickly and swiftly overwhelmed. So now I have an opportunity here to to move in with some more infantry, surround these guys, break that line, and then engage the second line of the Date forces. So my ally, Man of Wanwei, going to take advantage of this opportunity here. A big line, or a big gap rather, has opened up in the line, and he's going to move in with some of his Great Guard. And he's going to charge into the rear of these Matchlock Ashigaru as they try to flee. And those are just militia tier units, so they're not going to like being attacked by cavalry in the rear too much. And we may see them begin to flee. But over here, see, this is really big, because the Takeda will now have kind of their pick of targets of the Date back line. As long as my samurai can hold, I've got 117 samurai over here who are already beginning to waver. That is bad news bears. Over here, my Yari samurai as well, also wavering. I think that's because that's the same unit and they're being attacked by two different units, so they're not really feeling all that confident. But thankfully, the addition of those Great Guard into the rear of the Date forces, the Nodachi Date, that is going to help stabilize my morale a little bit, but still, my units are not looking like they really have the will to fight at this point. Over here, you can see that the Date have managed to break through my lines. They have destroyed my Katana Samurai, not something that I really expected to have happen, so I'm going to move in with a second company of Katana Samurai and try and plug this gap in my line. But so far, things aren't looking too great for me. Over on this end, you can see some of the Great Guard have been pinned down by my Yari Cavalry, but he's actually brought in some spears here in the form of the Yari Ashigaru to support his line. So I'm going to actually have to move out of there with my Yari Cavalry if I don't want to lose them. So I am actually pinning these two units in place here, and I'm going to bring in another unit of Yari Cavalry to try and hit these units from the rear. It looks like they're going to go right for the Great Guard, deny those Great Guard the charge, get their charge bonus rolling, and that is going to be a pretty some pretty heavy losses there for the Great Guard. But ultimately, the Great Guard will win in a straight fight. So now finally, I'm going to pull my cavalry out of there. I'm going to sort of preserve what remains of my Yari Cavalry. Got my general in the back here as well, trying to inspire them, prevent these units from routing. And I'm moving in with some reformed Katana Samurai. I've got actually 2 or 3 units of Katana Samurai in the area, and I'm just trying to isolate this one unit of Nodachi Samurai and reform my lines. Ooh, that was ugly. Over here in the center, it's a little bit better. Thanks to the addition of my ally Man of Wanwei's cavalry, I was able to break through with my Naginata Samurai, and now the Date Nodachi Samurai are in full retreat. And a lot of that really has to do with Man of Wanwei coming in and saving my bacon. I think that if I was just left to my own devices, that the Date player would have eventually been allowed to skirmish me down with his powerful morale-breaking units like his Matchlock Ashigaru, and grind me down in melee with some of his very powerful shock troops. So thankfully, I have a ally who definitely knows what he's doing here, and he's saving my bacon a little bit. So over on this end, you can see some of the Katana Samurai getting stuck in with the Oda Yari Ashigaru, and that's going to be an ugly, ugly affair. Definitely in favor, I would say, of the Katana Samurai. They have taken some reasonably heavy losses, a little bit over a third of the unit, but the Yari Ashigaru are ultimately going to lose in that fight. Although it looks like a lot of the Bow Samurai have actually been driven back because of the Yari Ashigaru. They want to try and use their superior range to attack the Bow Ashigaru while they are unable to retaliate, which is a good move, I think, on the part of the Takeda. But everywhere else, pretty well all quiet so far. The Oda versus Takeda engagement is mostly concentrated over here where the Yari Ashigaru are busy fighting with the Katana Samurai. What do we got over here? Looks like some of the Bow Ashigaru are supporting a push here from the Oda Matchlock Ashigaru. Now, if Wanwei doesn't see this, and it looks like he is going to see it, so these Matchlock Ashigaru are going to be in a lot of trouble. It would probably be prudent, I think, for Records to try and pull these guys back, but it's looking like that's going to be impossible as those Katana Samurai collide with those Matchlock Ashigaru. Now, they are going to have the retreat covered by the Bow Ashigaru, but these Katana Samurai are just going to be able to move forward and potentially rout this entire wing here from Recrius. Although maybe if they throw the Bow Ashigaru under the bus, these units will have time to reform and then put some serious fire into those Takeda Katana Samurai, but I suppose we'll see what happens. I kind of want to know. And it looks like that is indeed what Recrius is going to try and do. He's going to throw that unit of Bow Ashigaru under the bus and reform with his Yari, with his Matchlock Ashigaru, rather. But let's see if they manage to get off a volley. I'm thinking no. Oh, come on, this is perfect. A close-range volley into those Katana Samurai is going to claim the lives of many of those elite warrior caste. And with that, the Oda Ashigaru are going to continue to retreat. but they are going to get caught in melee again with the Katana Samurai, and there's really nowhere left for them to run. So the Katana Samurai will have an opportunity to run them down. Now, over here on my end, it looks like the Dante have basically been scattered, and we are now just running down what remains of the few isolated pockets of forces that they still have remaining in the woods. Over here, it looks like some of the Great Guard who got themselves stuck in with the Naginata warrior monks. Really not a good idea. The Naginatas are essentially halberds, I would say, from 3rd Age Total War. I don't know if they're armor piercing or not, but they do have a nice defense bonus that you would associate sort of with spears, but they also have the anti-cavalry bonus that, well, to a lesser extent at least, about 10 less anti-cavalry bonus, but they do have it that makes them very similar to spears. So they're nice, they're a happy medium between spears and the offensive power, I would say, of some of the katana units. Although they're not really better than either in their preferred role. Over here we can see that the Dante have dismounted their general, and they are now forming up for a last stand. Naginata warrior monks taking pride of place here in the center. You can see my forces now swarming against the, I think that's some of the Yari Ashigaru left over from the Dante. Now I'm just going to run straight up that hill, smack in to the warrior monks. So the warrior monks are very elite, and actually they're pretty tired at this point. The rest of my forces are very tired as well, but I'm going to be fighting uphill. So a charge here from the Naginata Samurai going to catch me a little bit off guard. My Yari Samurai going to get caught up in that melee, and looks like they're taking some pretty heavy losses really quickly. So they might not have the strength to stand around for too much longer. But over here, I got another unit of Yari Samurai, and I think a third unit that is overlapping the line here, flanking the Naginata warrior monks, and actually getting in amongst the general. Now I'm bringing in some more units here. I got some Katana Samurai backed up by my general, and I'm going to use my general to pretty great effect in this particular engagement. Yeah, so my Katana Samurai can move in there against the general unit. I really want to assassinate the Dante general, because if I can do that, like I said earlier, morale in Shogun is very much tied to your general, and it's a little bit more feeble, I would say, than a lot of other Total War titles. So units rout pretty easily, but if you get the general, they will shatter nearly immediately, and you'll be able to just run them down like the cowardly dogs that they are. So over on this end, it looks like the Naginata warrior monks, it says that they're still winning, but I am actually focusing some of my remaining bow Ashigaru on them. I've got a lot of archers still left at this point, and they're very exposed up here on this hill. So the hill kind of playing against them in terms of making them an easier target for my missiles, and ultimately these Naginata warrior monks are going to be overwhelmed. Now the Dante general here being butchered in close quarters by my samurai, although I think one of my samurai just got himself bisected by that valiant general's bodyguard. But I'm going to bring my own mounted general's bodyguard into the fray, and they're going to get stuck in there with the Dante general, and that is going to be all that she wrote. Which really just leaves the fight over on this end. Now, it looks like Oda has mobilized some of their Yari cavalry, and they're charging straight on into the bow samurai. Now, Man of One Way trying to stop him from turning into a complete disaster for his skirmish force is going to move in with some Yari Ashigaru, which is going to oblige the Oda forces to try and retreat. But many of those bow samurai, at least half of them, got caught up by that cavalry unit, and they're going to die pretty quickly. Over here, though, the Ashigaru and the Yari cavalry getting caught up, I think, with some of the Takeda Cav, who've now countercharged them, some Takeda Yari Cav, and that is going to be an ugly affair for Oda. And now they have been completely routed on their left wing. So the Oda forces moving in with another unit of the Oda Matchlock Ashigaru. I think this might be the same one that we saw earlier. And as many of their units retreat, they're going to put down a withering hail of covering fire to potentially allow some of their units, like these Oda Ashigaru over here, for example, who are not yet shattered, to have the opportunity to reform. I think they're just a little bit out of range at this point. Ooh, if they get a decent enough volley into these Yari Ashigaru, then they could rout them pretty quickly. What do we got here? Some Takeda Yari Cav running down the Oda Bow Ashigaru. I think... I'm not too sure what this unit of Oda Matchlock Ashigaru is targeting right now, but they definitely need to get their rear in gear and begin to fire into those Yari Ashigaru. But it looks like Man of One Way is going to fall back. Oh, never mind. He's going to turn around and come back and continue that fight. Over on this end, it looks like a lot of the cavalry has been hunted down by the much more superior, both in terms of numbers and quality, Takeda cavalry, and they've caught up with that Yari Cav, and both sides are pretty much butchering each other right now, but the Oda cavalry is definitely getting the worst of it, and they are going to be routed in short order and driven from the field. Look at that, they're already shaken. They are stabilizing a little bit, but I don't think they're going to be able to hold out for too much longer, given the numbers disparity between those two units, and of course the quality as well. So the Takeda forces still very much intact, but so is the majority of the Oda army as well. Now I think now would be a very good time for Recrius to move in with some of his Oda Bow Ashigaru. It seems like Madame Wanwei is a little bit busy in other areas, so he might have an opportunity, I think, to begin to put some fire into the Yari Ashigaru. And if he can thin out the infantry line for the Takeda, then he may be able to overwhelm him with his superior numbers. But again, that is a bit of a long shot. There's a big quality disparity between the troops on the two sides. The only thing the Oda really have going for them is their numbers and the superior Yari Ashigaru, or just Ashigaru in general, as well. Some ugly shots there into the front of the Yari Ashigaru line is going to oblige Recrius to begin to move forward. Those fire arrows just pouring in from the samurai. Many of these Ashigaru not really enjoying that too much. You can see they've lost nearly a quarter of the unit. Over on this end, a big charge from both sides. Ashigaru colliding in the over on the left wing. The Oda are definitely at home in this kind of fight. The Ashigaru from the Takeda looking like they've been caught kind of out of formation, and are having a little bit of an issue there, getting themselves set up to fight the Oda. And the Oda are taking advantage of that. They're gaining a lot of ground right now and massacring the Yari Ashigaru from the Takeda side. So if he manages to break this this right wing of the Takeda army, he's going to be able to roll up that line really easy and potentially rout most of the units here. Even the samurai will flee in the face of overwhelming numbers if they are being surrounded. What do we got here? We got some bow samurai from the Takeda, getting a little bit too close to the melee line. Looks like Man of Wanwei may be committing these guys to try and stabilize the situation on his flank and bolster the line here in the center a little bit, where the Ashigaru seem to be. I would say that they're gaining ground, but I think with the addition of the samurai, they're now going to be losing decisively. This is going to be a real ugly affair for the Oda forces. Now, there is a bit of a mistake, I think, that was made by Recrius over here. There's a large number of these Oda Yari Ashigaru that could be used to stabilize this wing and to outflank some of these Katana Samurai and the Yari Ashigaru over on this end. But at the moment, the Takeda are doing to the Oda what the Oda were doing to the Takeda over on the other end. You can see this this wing here being steadily crushed by the combination of Takeda Samurai and the Yari Ashigaru. On this end, looks like somehow the Takeda forces managed to get in behind the Yoda Ashigaru, and I think that might have been some of the reinforcements coming from down here. Over on this end, some Bow Ashigaru getting attacked by the Takeda Yari Cav, but those Takeda Yari cavalry are actually going to get destroyed and be shattered and flee off the battlefield. Now, a little bit of a note here, I decided I would wait to see kind of who would win the fight before engaging, just because I wanted to give the Oda forces a little bit of an opportunity, because they are definitely on the back foot in terms of the quality of their army versus that of the Takeda forces. So I decided it would be a little bit more sporting to allow them to do this. So we got Oda Nobunaga himself over here, fighting against the Takeda, who and the Yari Ashigaru here are going to overwhelm him, and ultimately that general is going to fall, which is going to precipitate a general rout, I would say, amongst the remaining Oda forces. And Recrius has finally brought this unit of Yari Ashigaru into the fight, but ultimately it is going to be way too late. So Oda Nobunaga just fell, and that is going to cause the rest of the Oda forces to rout and shatter, and that is going to be the end of the battle here. So a great game to my opponents. The Dante were really giving me what for, and if I didn't have a ally like the Takeda who knew what they were doing, I think I would have probably lost that engagement. But ultimately, it was a victory just because of how strong the Takeda forces were. They really played the field very well, and I think Recrius made a couple of mistakes. He's new to the game, so like, you know, don't be too critical. But yeah, the Takeda player definitely showed that they knew what they were doing, and I would say that they're totally the MVP for this match. But in any case, let's move on to our second battle. I'll see you guys in just a few moments. Alright, the second game I have for you today is a 3v3 on the Gifu Crossing map. It's a river crossing, but the river doesn't really play a significant role in this particular battle. Let's take a look at some of the army comps before we get into it. The first army we're looking at today is the forces of the Oda, who's being played by Just For Fun, I believe. He has got a ton of these long spear Ashigaru. They are essentially pikes, and they can devastate even samurai from the front. So they're a very strong front line, but they need to be supported quite heavily. And he's got a lot of troops to do that. Got some Nodachi samurai here. Again, decent enough shock troops, but in melee with other units, they tend to suffer a little bit. a little bit more, I would say, than most units because they have very low melee defense. Over here we got some Naginata warrior monks, very elite, high morale, and they're a nice balance between, I would say, the offensive power of a samurai and the defensive capabilities and anti-cav capabilities of a spear. Over here we have Oda Nobunaga himself. I'm not too sure who he is. I guess that's him right there with his impressive hat. And this guy's brought a ton of cavalry as well. He's got a couple units here of, he's got 1 unit light cav, 1 unit of Yari cav, and again, more Yari cav, more light cavalry. I think he's got some cavalry that might be hidden elsewhere. His ground forces are very, very expansive. A lot of Ashigaru units, as you would expect from Oda. Got some matchlock Ashigaru here in the front to the tune of about 2 units. Yet more Oda long Ashigaru, even more Oda long Ashigaru. A couple units of warrior or bow warrior monks. I think we've got some samurai in here as well. I could be wrong about that though. I don't think that Oda actually has access to samurai. I think it's mostly, well, maybe they do. They've got the Nodachi samurai, but it doesn't seem like they have a whole an abundance of it because they're supposed to be like a peasant faction. But in any case, moving on over here, we got one of the forces of the Shimazu. There's actually 2 Shimazu forces, so prepare to be confused. There's one across the field for me, but we'll get to him in a little bit. I've got a very similar army composition to what I had in the last game. I have 1 unit of Yari Cav here. Actually, 2 units of Yari Cav arranged on my wings. Other 2 on the other side. I went a little bit harder on my bow units this time around. I noticed that was a big problem in my last game where my bow units just weren't all that effective. So I've brought 3 units of bow samurai and 1 unit of the bow warrior monks, and they're hanging out in here somewhere. My front line, instead of spear samurai, I've got Yari Ashigaru, 4 units of Yari Ashigaru. Second line of Naginata samurai. And then I've got a third line that consists of my Katana Samurai. So all around, pretty balanced force. Moving on over to this end, I believe this guy is playing as the Tosa. This is Crimson Behelit, who is one of the developers for Third Age Reforged. Because he doesn't actually have the base Shogun 2, he had to play as one of the Fallen Samurai factions, but he wasn't allowed to bring any of their really significant gunpowder units, and of course no artillery. So he's got a lot of the Yarikachi, a lot of the Katana Kachi. I think he's got some Bow Ki, which is like a mounted skirmisher unit. He's also got some Samurai Hero, armed with bows, a General's Hatamoto, which I assume is bodyguard or something like that. He's got some Bokachi in the back, and I think he's got some melee cav as well, of the Yari Ki, which is like a traditional samurai cavalry. And he's got some Kisho Ninja, because of course these ninja masters of stealth and deception are going to wear their black pajamas on a field covered with snow. Well done, guys. I think that's just about it for the, what do I call them? The defensive team? I don't know. For my team. Let's take a look at what our opponents are bringing. Over here we have Man of One Way again. He's got a ton of the Usugi warrior monks, who I think this faction specializes in their religious units, so he's really doubled down on his warrior monk front line. He's got a lot of the Naginata armed warrior monks, and behind them he's got a ton of the bow warrior monks as well. All around it's a much smaller force, but a much more elite and powerful one. Finally, he's got a couple units in the back of Katana Samurai. I think he's got a ton of cavalry hanging around here somewhere. He's got some light cav, his general's bodyguard. There's actually a lot of cavalry hiding in the woods as well, to the tune of, I think, about 1 or 2 more units of light cavalry and some Yari cav. The Yari cav being very, very effective against other cavalry units. I think that just about does it for his army. Let's take a look at the second Shimazu force, this one being commanded by Captain Douchebag, one of the RPGMs for the Third Age Reforged Discord. He's got, as you would expect, a ton of the Shimazu Katana Samurai, because that is what they specialize in. So these guys are a little bit stronger than your average samurai. And to back them up, he really went ham on his skirmish force. He's got like 5 units of bow samurai and 1 or 2 units of the bow warrior monks. He's also got some elite regiments here, like the spears of Shizugatake, who are, I think they're basically Yari Cav, but like a very beefed up version of Yari Cav. He's got a Katana cavalry version of them as well. Not these guys though. This is General's bodyguard Shimazu Yoshihiro, and he's got a Shimazu Katana hero who is really significant in this battle. I made a huge mistake in regards to that unit. He's also got, where are they? The Kiyomasa's Katana Cavalry, so it's like a hero Katana cavalry unit. And I think that's just about it for him. So let's move on to Recreus, who is again joining us for this battle. He's playing as the Chosokabe, the faction that I was playing as in the last game. He's got some Matchlock Samurai. I think he's got about 1 or 2 units of the Matchlock Samurai. A ton of Yari Samurai and some Chosokabe Bow Samurai. In addition to which, I'm pretty sure he's got some katana samurai as well. I could be wrong about that. I don't really see them anywhere. Oh yeah, here you go. He's got about 4 or so units of the katana samurai. And in the back, I'm seeing 3 units here of the Yari Cav. And I think he's got another unit of cavalry around here as well. In addition to his general's bodyguard, that being Chosokabe Motochika, who's like their, I don't know. They're a name general, so they're like a little bit better or something. As far as I can tell, they're just more expensive, but they have a name. Let's go ahead and let's kick it up to full speed. Now this is where it gets really interesting. Over on the Uswegi Tosa matchup, we've got Man of One Way facing down Crimson Behelid, and Crimson Behelid is being very, very aggressive. He's not going to waste any time getting into range of the Uswegi. And over here, he's got some Yari Ki charging straight through the Uswegi warrior monks, and that is going to be really, really bad for the cavalry. These guys do have it's a lower cavalry bonus than spears do, but it is still significant, and the Yari Ki are going to get themselves massacred there. I don't think he realized just how strong those units were against cavalry, so he's going to follow that up with an attack from a general attack, actually, from his Yari Kachi. These Swegi are going to countercharge his cavalry from the rear, try and sweep them away. He's got some bow cavalry over here to, I presume, to try and snipe some of the Uswegi warrior monks. He's also got some of his own Yari Ki in here to drive back the Uswegi light cavalry, and I think there's some Yari Cav in there as well. No, they're both light cavalry, and they're actually losing quite heavily to the Yari Ki, although the Yari Ki are beginning to waver. Yeah, all on the line. Things aren't really looking great for him. The Katana Kachi are really losing quite heavily to the Uswegi warrior monks. I think that the Fall of the Samurai melee units are not quite as good as the traditional ones from the base campaign, so it seems like the Uswegi warrior monks are really getting the better of him in this engagement. But let's take a look at what's going on over in the center here. Now you can see some of the Uswegi cavalry actually managed to charge into my bow samurai. I was able to move in with some spears, and my ally came in from the rear with a lot of his Oda light cav, so we're able to basically destroy them for the most part. They managed to get away with about half of their unit, I think, but you can see that they're in a lot of trouble, and they're about to start routing. So general charge here. You can see some of the Yari Cav from the Oda getting into the bow samurai, softening them up for me. And a lot of the Shimazu bow units are actually in a really bad position. We've got a lot of allied cavalry over here that are going to be able to just charge straight into these guys and try and sweep them away. So Captain Douchebag is going to try and pull them back behind the relative safety of his lines, but at the same time, I'm actually moving forward with all of my troops as well to try and support my ally. You can see, yeah, basically my entire force has been mobilized, aside from some of my Yari Ashigaru, who are now actually beginning to move forward as well. Now over here, this is really significant. If you look, this is the Shimazu general. This is Shimazu Yoshihiro himself, who is in danger of being completely enveloped by the Oda cavalry. Now this is a big micro mistake on the part of Captain Douchebag. A lot of his, I think he was moving forward when we started to sweep out of the woods with cavalry, and I was moving forward with infantry. So we kind of got caught a little bit off guard, and now look at this. This is disastrous. Yari cavalry coming in from the rear against the general's bodyguard. That is going to be, oh, that's going to be devastating for the Shimazu, and I don't think that their general is going to be able to survive that. So let's pop over onto the other end and see how the Uswegi are doing against the Tosa. And a lot of them have shattered, and I think that's because he ended up losing his general pretty early. He does have a lot of infantry still left over. Like, look at this. There's like hundreds of samurai running for their lives. If his general and his morale had held up, he would have done a hell of a lot better against the Uswegi, who at the moment have a significant amount of their standing army still remaining. So that's a big problem for us. We've lost heavily on this flank, so we need a solid victory, and we're kind of poised to take that here in the center. Yeah, I think that at this point the general has been swept away. Indeed, there he goes. Shimazu Yoshihiro is going to get destroyed, and that's going to be it for Captain Douchebag's general. I'm gonna follow that up with a general advance from my infantry. You can see that all of my Yari, Ashigaru, and things like that are now in a good position to begin charging into the samurai. Although for some reason these guys are shaken. Not too sure why that would be. I think they're getting shot by some of the bow samurais that moved in. And that charge from the Shimazu Katana Samurai is going to do a lot to my poor Yari Ashigaru, and they're going to start routing pretty well immediately. I'm going to follow that up with a charge from my own Katana Samurai, so things are starting to get real here, especially in the center. You can see more and more of the Shimazu Samurai moving forward, and I'm trying to move in to check them. I'm actually reforming right now in behind the wreckage of my front line. You can see a lot of my Yari Ashigaru and things like that have begun to fall back. and I was trying to form up a defensive spear wall there to meet that charge from the Shimazu Katana Samurai, which I managed to get down in time. At the same time, my ally just swept in from the rear, wiped out that unit of Shimazu Samurai, or very nearly wiped them out, and now he's going to, he being Captain Douchebag, is going to start committing some of his seriously powerful units to the center. Now, I did not realize that he even had Katana Hero, so he's going to throw them in there against my Yari Ashigaru. So at a glance, I figured, yeah, I've totally got this. Look at this. I'm winning this fight. His Katana Cavalry is stuck in against my Yari. His spears of Shi's whatever have been basically reduced to combat ineffectiveness. And his Katana Samurai were heavily defeated by a charge from the rear by my ally. So I'm thinking, I got this in the bag, right? So I throw some spear units in there, just try to envelop these guys and completely surround them. But unfortunately for me, the Shimazu Katana Samurai are really doing a number on my troops right now. Like, despite the numbers and despite being surrounded, the Katana Samurai are really hitting back hard against my Yari Ashigaru. Over on this end, I think, yeah, I'm pretty sure that's my Katana Samurai who are going to be retreating here. So Captain Douchebag has beaten me over on this end as well by double teaming my one unit of Katana Samurai with two of his own. He definitely has a lot more Katana units to go around, and I was holding back a few units in reserve, and I think I had some units that I threw into the woods over here to try and help my ally, which ended up getting caught out and destroyed. I think I've also got a commitment of troops on this end as well. So my Naginata Samurai, it appears, are routing. So my forces have basically lost pretty well across the board. I think a lot of that had to do with just how beefy those Katana Samurai are. You can see that they have a lot of experience as well. So that gave them a distinct advantage over my much more balanced force, given that he had just so many of those strong sword units that really excel in melee. So if we look over onto this end, the Oda have actually committed all of their forces, denying recreation engagement, which honestly isn't the worst idea. I've begun to fall back some of my troops that reformed. I got some Katana Samurai and some Naginata Samurai and a lot of my skirmishers as well. I've decided to fall them back and to try and reform and support my ally against the incoming hordes of Recreus and his Chosokabe. So over here, it looked like we were winning. We were winning quite heavily, and then I eventually ended up getting swept away just by the sheer number of the Katana Samurai, and especially in the center, these Shimazu Katana Hero, I committed heavily under the assumption that I'd be able to beat those Katana Samurai, but those heroes basically single-handedly turned the battle around on me. So at this point, I've fallen back with everything that I've got to try and salvage what remains of my army. See, I'm bringing back some Shimazu. I think those are my Shimazu Samurai. Actually, you know what? They're not. These are actually Captain Douchebag's Samurai who are advancing on my line right now. Like I said, things are going to get really confusing. So we're driving them back with a hail of missile fire, some of my own bows, and I think, oh, look at that. Beautiful shot there, taking out quite a lot of those Katana Samurai. But I think there's also some matchlocks in there as well. They're giving me a little bit of aid. So over on this end, I've still got a couple units of Samurai. Got some Shimazu Katana and Naginata Samurai, in addition to the units that I was holding in reserve, I believe, over here. I think I've got a couple more. So I don't have much of an army, but Captain Douchebag has, he's got more troops, but he has definitely been battered as well. He's got a fair amount of Katana Samurai, but most of them are under strength, I think, except for this one unit, which was held in reserve the entire time. He's also got a lot of Bow Samurai, but what he doesn't have is his General. And that's a pretty significant loss. So what I'm going to try and do is leverage the range here of my Bow Warrior Monks over that of the Bow Samurai. And since they're a little bit busy now trying to side down the Oda Matchlock Ashigaru, I'm going to start to open fire on his Bow Samurai and even the odds in the skirmish fight just a little bit more in favor of my Shimazu, the best Shimazu, of course. Now over on this end, oh wow, this is where the cav engagement really starts to kick off between the Chosokabe and the Oda are really going to have the advantage in this fight. You can see that he's thrown a unit of light cavalry in there, actually a few of them, and they're going to cause Recreus' forces to bunch up, and he's going to come in from the rear with his long spear Yari Ashigaru, and that's going to be ugly. I mean, pike plus horse equals dead horse. We all know that at this point. So the Chosokabe are going to find themselves completely surrounded here. This is going to be basically their entire cavalry force that is going to suffer some heavy losses due to some pretty nice... I'd say that this is a beautiful setup here by the Oda player. Now, we are going to see maybe a little bit of routing here from some of the Oda light cavalry. They were getting hammered by that Yari cav, but the presence of all these extra support units managed to turn that engagement in favor of the Oda. Now over here, Reckless's skirmish line opening up on the Oda, and the Oda are just going to go for it. Now, slow down just a little bit. What I had originally thought is that we would just kind of sit here and skirmish with Recreus, but I think that the Oda player realizes that now that his rear is exposed and my army is so heavily depleted, I won't be able to hold off the Shimazu and eventually the Uswegi for too long. And actually, a note on the Uswegi, the reason they're not moving in right now is because Madawan wanted to be a little bit sporting and kind of see what happens and give both of these, both sides here a chance to kind of play out their battles and see where they go. So that was really sporting of him, I think, to do that. Yeah, what was I saying? Yes, the Oda realize, I think, that their rear here is exposed to the Shimazu, and I won't be able to hold them off for too long. So he's just going to go for it. He is going to charge straight out at Recreus' lines and kind of see what happens. And he's doing really well for himself right now. Matchlock Samurai here getting stuck in combat with Yari Cav. That same Yari Cav is going to be countercharged by some of the remaining Chosokabe Yari Cav who managed to escape from this massacre over here. But now they are being pinned in place by that cavalry, and there's a couple spear units, I think, that are mixed in there as well. So that Yari cavalry is going to find themselves heavily outnumbered, and eventually they are going to be defeated. It looks like he managed to save another one of his units from the destruction that the Oda player dealt to him over here, but I don't think that other unit is going to be able to last for too much longer, especially not with his low numbers and with the presence of so many nearby routing units. So the Oda are really hammering the Chosokabe right now. And one of the things I have to mention that I really liked is that the Oda player threw in one of his Naginata warrior monks, because they have a high morale. They have really high base morale, so they don't rout very easily. And then he used a lot of his missile units in here to just focus down this big blob of Chosokabe forces. And now the Chosokabe are all quite tired, and the Oda are going to be able to basically... They're going to advance on them, and the Chosokabe are going to have to split up in order to form an effective battle line. So they're going to be able to be isolated and potentially surrounded by these huge pike blocks, which do extremely well against units like the Katana Samurai, who have to get in really close in order to be effective. So let's move back over on the other end. You can see the forces of the worst Shimazu are over here under Captain Douchebag, and they are getting absolutely hammered right now by my skirmish line. I'm just focusing down these single units of Bow Samurai, and because they don't have their general, their morale is quite feeble. Even for an elite warrior caste unit like the Samurai, sustained fire like this with their leader dead is not going to lend itself to keeping them in the fight for too long. So you can already see them beginning to waver, and yeah, another volley there ought to be enough, I think, to see them off. And for the most part, the Shimazu forces have been heavily reduced in terms of their skirmish line, and I've definitely been left in control of the skirmish fight for quite some time now. So that's nice for me, but I don't have the infantry needed really to hold off the Shimazu. They've got enough Katana Samurai in the back there, and a little tiny bit of cav left as well. Enough definitely to be a devastating force. And I think maybe now would be a good time for Captain Douchebag to be a little bit more aggressive with his cavalry. I don't really have... I mean, I've got my tiny little general bodyguard unit, and I guess there's the Oda over here as well. But yeah, his cavalry charging into my Bow Samurai or into my warrior monks, for example, I mean, that would really help go a long way towards evening out this fight. Let's move back on over to the other end where the Oda are mopping up, it appears, what remains of the Katana Samurai. You can see cavalry now in the back lines just tearing the Chosokabe asunder. It looks like Motochika himself is being focus fired down and not focus fired, but focused down and surrounded and quite thoroughly beaten, it would appear, by the Oda cavalry. So got that Yari Cav, I think, backed up with some light Cav as well. Nope, just 2 units of Yari Cav, and they're actually going to kill Motochika, and that's going to be a big loss for Recreus. You can see that these Chosokabe Bow Samurai, not liking being run over by horsemen, already beginning to waver. That's only going to be a matter of moments, I think, before they begin to rout. Over on this end, you can just see how disruptive the Oda are being right now. These Oda long Ashigar are moving in to try and support the Oda cavalry, who has pinned these bow units in place. Going to allow those long spear units to charge right in and pretty well drive these units back here en masse. Now they are still samurai; they'll be decent enough in melee. And I think the Shimazu are actually moving in now with their own cavalry to try and give the Chosokabe a little bit of support. But the presence of these Oda long Ashigaru is going to zone that cav out, and they're going to be forced to retreat along with all that remains of the Chosokabe forces. Now, over on this end, it looks like Man of One Way has decided that enough is enough, and it's time to join the battle and support his allies. And I make a big blunder right here. You can see that the Oda forces have actually pulled a little bit farther away from me, actually quite far away, far enough that I'm not really able to be supported by them anymore, or to support them in turn. So I'm isolated up here on this hill. Now, the hill, it's not the worst. I mean, having a hill in Total War is obviously a really important advantage, but what I need to do is get the hell out of here, move over to where the Oda are, and try and support them as best I can, because I've still got a lot of skirmishers, right? And I think a lot of the skirmishers have suffered quite heavily. These bow warrior monks here, quite heavily reduced. This one is in really good shape, but his match like Ashigaru and things like that, most of them have been very heavily reduced by the forces of Recrius. So yeah, if we were supporting each other, especially with my limited numbers of infantry, then we would be in a much better position than we are separated. United we stand, divided we fall, of course. Let's go ahead and let's kick it back into normal speed. Yuswegi moving in on me right now. Now, I know that these warrior monks are quite low number and very vulnerable to missile attacks. So what I want to try and do is leverage my bow samurai and my warrior monks, who still have a little bit of ammunition at this point, to greatest effect. Now, what I should have done, obviously, is pull back, but I'm thinking I'll put up a last stand here, try and kill as many of these Uswegi warrior monks as I can. I'm pretty confident that I can kill a fair number of their samurai and things like that, and give my ally the chance that he needs, possibly to move in and deal with a Shimazu basically on his own. Now, if he can move in and pick a fight with the Shimazu while they're busy fighting me, then I think things would go a hell of a lot better than they would otherwise, but unfortunately my ally doesn't seem to be willing to do that. So unfortunately, unfortunately we're not going to do too well here. I think that's pretty obvious. Iswegi warrior monks moving in now. A lot of my bow units are starting to run out of ammo, and in the back you can see some of the cavalry still left over, the light cav from these Iswegi. I'm trying to zone them out by pulling back one of my units of Naginata Samurai, and then I'm just going to use my out of ammunition bow units to charge into battle against these Iswegi warrior monks and try and kill as many of them as possible. Over here I've got my own warrior monks that I'm planning on charging into the Iswegi, but they're going to get a downhill charge into my bow units, and it's just ultimately not going to be in my favor in the slightest. I'm moving in some of my bow samurai as well, another high morale unit to try and form something resembling a coherent battle line. I'm actually going to take my general's bodyguard and run them into the rear of those Iswegi warrior monks. They are high morale, but I'm thinking if I can get a decent enough hammer and anvil charge, maybe I can destroy these guys. Yeah, a nice little charge there, but these Naginata warrior monks are no slouches, nothing you want to play around with, and they're going to do really well against my general's bodyguard and cut them down pretty well efficiently. Elsewhere, the rest of my army is now fleeing in the face of the overwhelming might of the warrior monks, and that's going to be basically it for me.
Your general can no longer fight, sir. He sustained
over on this end, you can see a skirmish fight going on between the Shosokabe, all that remains of them, a few bow warrior monks, or a few bow units, things like that, and the rest of the Oda army. And they're using the tree line as cover, so they're definitely in a decent enough position to stand up to missile fire for a sustained period of time. But now that they've beaten me, the warrior monks are going to be able to just swoop in onto the flank, and my ally is effectively surrounded. Look at this. There's a little bit of cavalry in the back there. That's Man of One Way's light cav. They didn't use... I don't think he used them in that fight against me. He didn't really need to. And they're in position to swoop in from the rear and hit some of the Oda skirmishers where it hurts the most. Now, there's still a fair amount of the Oda long Ashigaru left. There's a pretty imposing battle line here. And I feel like he's intimidated the rest of the enemy team, given how well he's dealt with Recrius' army. So nobody really wants to charge into those Oda long Ashigaru because they all have a lot of respect for them at this point. But now that they're well situated, you can see that the Iswegi warrior monks are going to charge right in here against this healthy unit of warrior monks, and damn, are they going to do a lot of damage. Yeah, look at that. That is real ugly. I feel bad for them. The bow warrior monks are exceptional bowmen, but they are not amazing in close quarters. Now, the rest of the Uswegi army here, some Katana Samurai, backed up with yet more Katana Samurai from the Shimazu, are going to charge straight for the front lines. The Oda player, it looks like he got caught a little bit off guard here. I was going to let some of his matchlock Ashigaru actually just kind of sit here on the front lines, which maybe isn't the best place for them to be. So Nodashi Samurai charging in to these Katana Samurai, who kind of got a little bit too close and didn't get their charge bonus. Oh, wow, somebody just got bisected. Oh, look at that. Beautiful. So Oda Matchlock Samurai still firing away on the front lines. And the Oda are putting up a very valiant last stand here. Yeah, those long spear Ashigaru are going to do all right. But I think just the sheer weight of this push here from all these Katana Samurai is going to start to crumble this line a little bit. Except over here. Damn, look at this. Look at the amount of damage here that these Katana Samurai are sustaining in the face of just a peasant unit.
Sir, the battle is surely lost.
I think in the rear, yeah, this is where the Usuiki cavalry comes in from the rear and starts to be a big problem. Now, he didn't have any cavalry left at this point because he had used so much of it, either helping me defeat the Shimazu cavalry or crushing the forces of Recrius. So the Oda are going to be scattered, and that's going to be a costly enemy victory. I hope you guys have enjoyed our winter special so far. Basically, I intended to have this this video out yesterday, so you'd have a little bit more time to enter into the giveaway, but unfortunately, I just wasn't able to. I was feeling really sick, and it was hard for me to look at a computer screen, so maybe I'll leave it open for another day. I don't know, 3 days is probably enough. But in any case, hope you guys enjoy this, and I'll see you next time. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye!